beautiful, lovely people. Welcome back to my channel. I am super excited to be recording this video for you guys because I got a new camera. I got the Canon G7X Mark II and I am super excited because this is my new setup, and I hope that y'all are excited too because this means more content for you guys. Before we get into today's video, I want to give a huge, big shout out and thank you to my friend Andrea. I got my new camera, right? And I set it up and I had my tripod going and everything was ready to go. And as soon as I tapped record, it said, no memory card found. So I have now learned that in order to record a video or actually shoot anything on a camera, you need an SD card. So my friend Andrea got me an SD card for Christmas, so thank you to her. Big round of applause because this would not be possible without her. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we are going to be talking about my experience at Apple. I'm gonna get into all the nitty-gritty of what it's like working at Apple Retail and what I was doing before Apple Retail and all the things. So if you are interested in working at Apple, this video is for you. Give it a big thumbs up just so that way we can help, you know, get me on that little YouTube algorithm, you know what I'm saying? So go ahead and stay tuned for the rest of the video. So first off, I want to start with what I did before Apple. So before Apple, I was working as a CNA. I worked at a retirement home here in San Antonio, and it was great. I really thought that I wanted to do nursing. I was studying nursing in school. I was on track to become a nurse. I was even getting to do more hands-on work with the nurses that I worked with. So I was very deep in the nursing realm, okay? And I had to take a speech class as one of my prerequisite courses, or kind of like core courses, if you will. And I met this man, and his name was Jared, and he was the sweetest little angel, and his speech was on Apple. And keep in mind, this guy is like my age. He was maybe 18, 19 at the time. And he basically talked all about his experience with working at Apple and how awesome it was and how cool it was. And I'm just thinking like, what? Like, I was so confused because I thought that in order to work at Apple Retail, even though it's Apple Retail, you still needed a degree, you needed to be involved in IT, you needed to know all things about computers, you needed to know how to code, all the things, okay? And if y'all know me, I suck at anything related to technology. I suck at coding, I suck at math, I suck at computers. I am not good with troubleshooting whatsoever. So when I'm hearing this guy talk, I'm like, wow, he must be so smart, right? And turns out you do not need a degree to work at Apple. And he actually encouraged me to apply to work at Apple. He said that all they care about is your personality and how friendly you are and how nice you are and how good of a person you are, more so than your actual skills. So that is a note to anyone that is looking to get hired with Apple. All they care about is who you are as a person and not so much about your skills that you have. With that being said, I went ahead and I took a shot and I applied. After applying, I waited maybe about a week, honestly, and I was a very lucky situation because the particular store that I applied to had lost a lot of employees, and I'm not gonna go into that because, you know, that's just like company stuff, but they had recently lost a lot of employees, so I had a very quick turnaround time with my application, which is not usually normal, and I got a call back and I got asked to interview. By the way, it is a 4-interview process. I just want to get that out there. So my first interview was with one of the managers, and it Y'all, it was the most embarrassing interview I think I've ever had in my life, because again, I was in this mindset of like, this is Apple, this is the big leagues, like I don't know what I'm doing here, I'm studying nursing, I don't know how I'm gonna fit into this world. And you could definitely tell, every answer I had was super articulate, and I tried to just I was just trying to be somebody that I wasn't, and it just was super embarrassing. I didn't think that I was gonna go any further, honestly. It was so bad. I cringe to this day just thinking about it. One of the questions that he asked me, he was like, so do you have an iPhone? And I was like, yeah, I've had Apple, you know, pretty much my whole life. He was like, what's the best feature on your iPhone? And I was like, okay, listen, I knew nothing. I hadn't even entered an Apple store before my interview. It was that bad, okay? So I knew that portrait mode had recently came out. It was this iPhone 7 Plus that I had, and portrait mode had come out on the 7 Plus. And I was like, well, I really like portrait mode. He was like, what would you change about it if you could? And I was like, I don't know. Like, it was so bad, y'all. Like, just to give you reference, okay? So at the end of it all, he was like, so like, what are you gonna be doing after this? And I was like after the interview? And he was like, yeah, well, like, what are your plans for the rest of the day? And I was like, well, and I'm thinking this is another interview question. Like, he wants to know what I do outside of, you know, like work or whatever. So I was like, oh, well, I'm probably gonna do homework and maybe, you know, clean up my house a little bit just so I look responsible. Really, I was gonna go and like watch Netflix or something, I don't know. And he was like, okay, well, do you have time to go to your second interview? And I was like, yes, like, of course I have time to go to my second interview. So my second interview was much, much better. He asked me a lot of like scenario questions, like, what would you do in a difficult situation with a customer? If a customer were to come up to you and start screaming at you, what would you do? Just very scenario-based questions. So really what they're looking for when they ask you questions like that is the situation, your action, how you resolved it, and the actual result. I pretty much just answered in that same format. So I basically talked about my experience at Natural Bridge, my experience at the nursing home, all the experience I really had, and none of it was in IT, okay? And the one question that just kept recurring, why Apple? Like, why would you want to come work at Apple when you're studying nursing? And I didn't really know if nursing was for me, and I was just kind of taking a shot on Apple, and I was kind of just trying to see where it could go. So I said that. I was like, you know what? I am just applying on a whim. I think it's important at a young age to take those responsibilities, to take those opportunities and to take that leap of faith and to just see where life takes you. And it worked out. I then got a call right after my second interview. I literally got back in my car, closed my door, and I got a call asking me for the third one and eventually the fourth one. So it's an intimidating process, but just be yourself and just be honest, and just be honest about your intentions as to why you're applying. They get so many people that are super like fangirly and they're obsessed with Apple. And although that's a great thing to, you know, be so passionate about a company and what they stand for, you really just need to be able to articulate why it's important for you to work there and what makes you different and what makes you stand out from another person who has the exact same passion that you do. So any tip that I have would just be yourself and work on articulating why they are lucky to be interviewing you. My first day, y'all, my first day at Apple was the start of training. And on my first day, I met my lovely, handsome man. I met Vincent on my first day at Apple, and it was the best. Training at Apple is probably the most fun that I ever had at Apple, if I'm being completely honest. It is just a ton of training and a ton of role-playing scenarios and a ton of just knowledge. I remember feeling like a sponge. I was just absorbing all of the things I could, and especially for a person like me who knew literally nothing. I was in a training group of 6 people, I believe, including myself, and I was always behind. Like, I just could never grasp the concept the same way, but you have such great resources surrounding you, and you have such wonderful people who have been there for so long that are just more than willing to help you. My first day at Apple was perfect. I could say nothing more than that. It was the best, one of the best days of like my life. It was so much fun. And so after training, you pretty much go on the floor, and I started off as a product zone specialist. So I was pretty much selling phones. Anytime you go in there and somebody greets you, "Hi, I'm Gigi," that is a product zone specialist more than likely, and that's what I was doing. I was selling phones, selling AirPods, selling iPads, Macs, all the things, and I eventually did so well in that role that I eventually got moved into the creative role, which essentially is the training role, kind of. I would teach people about so I would teach our customers about our products. We would have sessions called Today at Apple sessions, which they do have every day to this day, every hour, every day. And each one is based on a particular passion point. So we have video, photo, art and design, and coding. So I got to learn coding. Y'all, I learned coding from Apple. I had the time of my life being a creative. That was definitely my favorite part about working at Apple, was that job. It was so much fun. I learned something new every single day, you guys. And the creative team is phenomenal. Every creative that I worked with was spectacular. They were just full of knowledge. I did transfer to 3 different stores this year. Having to transfer to 3 different stores is already kind of hard, and having to learn a ton of new names. Every single store has about like 100, at minimum 100 employees in each one. So I made so many friends, and I learned so much along the way. I learned how different stores operate. I learned how, just all the things. And the reason why I transferred to those stores was just because of me personally moving. I moved to Austin at some point this year. So it was great. Now, on to my last day working at Apple. My last day was a short day. I worked 9:45 to 2, and it was definitely bittersweet. I was going on to newer and exciting things, and I am so happy and content with the jobs that I have now, but it was also hard to leave such a fun and stable work environment, and I am so grateful for the opportunity, but I am also happy that I get to kind of take the skills that I learned from Apple to another job that I also love just as much. And everybody was so supportive of my decision of leaving. I didn't leave on bad terms at all. Everybody at Apple is extremely supportive of one another, and they are constantly trying to help develop you and help you get to your goals in life. From day one, you know, I was always very just confused as to what it is that I wanted to do, but everyone that I met along the way helped me find what it is that I want to do now. And I feel that I have a pretty solid direction of where I'm headed, and Apple was definitely a huge contributor to that. And everyone I met, I remember this one particular manager, and I'm not gonna say his name, even though I don't think he'd mind, but I'm just not gonna say it. But this one particular manager that I had at my most recent store, I just got so emotional saying bye to him, because he was so supportive of everything that I did. Like any decision that I made, anything that I wanted to do, any time that I needed, any obstacle that I was faced with, he was there for me. And it's just so special to be able to have that in a workplace. So that completes this video, y'all. I'm just gonna leave it on a super positive note that I met some of the best people in my life through my experience at Apple. And if you are ever just curious, if you have like a little seed of curiosity about what it's like to work at Apple, I would just apply and I would just see where it takes you. It's never, you know, this perfect, fine and dandy. I know this video was super positive. I had a very positive experience, but you know, every day is not like this dream, right? Like I want to be completely honest with you guys, but it definitely in the long run really helps just kind of turn you into a better version of yourself and teach you skills that I don't think I'd ever get working in another kind of regular retail space. I worked at a ton of different retail stores, and nothing tops Apple. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helped and maybe gave you insight as to what it's like being a creative and being a product owner at Apple. I hope you enjoy, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, just so that way we can build a little community here and I can talk to you guys all about Apple and all about my new stuff and yada yada yada. But thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye guys.